Hi everyone, Bandanner here. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this week's WARNO devblog and general news updaters. They've started posting another devblog of some description, which I guess isn't a full devblog, earlier in the week. And today it's all about upcoming changes to the anti-aircraft gun, so we'll go through that first. So they're planning to make a few adjustments. So anti-air guns are proven to be extremely effective, perhaps a little bit too effective. So we're going to take a closer look at the situation. So why this change? Originally, anti-aircraft guns, or AAGs, did not have a ground support role in the game. However, in reality, these weapons are often used for ground fire support, which is why we decided to give them this capability. That said, AAGs can prove extremely powerful at short-range engagement, especially in forests. Now, while they are not unbeatable, countering them requires a significant micromanagement and can disrupt the balance of infantry combat. Our goal is to address the overperformance of AAGs at a short range while preserving their value as anti-air weapons and as ground fire support, while limiting their effectiveness against infantry at very close distances. So, the role of anti-air guns. Before we discuss the upcoming changes, let's take a moment to review the intended role of AAGs. Due to their vulnerability, these units, whether towed or self-propelled, are meant to serve as second or third line support, covering the front from aerial threats or protecting against flanking maneuvers. Ideally, AAGs should not be used alone. They are most effective when combined with other anti-aircraft units, either the same type or equipped with missiles to counter helicopters and planes. It is therefore normal that in some situations a lone AAG cannot deal with aerial units by itself. Conversely, it is also normal for a lone infantry unit charging an AAG to be destroyed. We want to make changes while respecting these core principles. We are working to find a solution that fits both our technical and gameplay constraints. Anti-aircraft guns are not designed to fire at ground targets, especially not at close range, yet this has become their most common use because of their effectiveness in the game. The first step will be to introduce a minimum firing distance for these weapons. Currently there's none. The goal is to allow infantry to destroy AAGs at close range. In reality, these weapons are difficult to use accurately against ground targets, especially at short distances, and can be dangerous to operate up close. It therefore makes sense that AAG should not be able to fire below a certain range. Alternatively, if needed, we could make towed AAGs targetable again by AT weapons and ATGMs. This would make them more vulnerable when used on the front line and would allow infantry to engage them with rocket launchers, addressing part of the problem. Another possible approach would be to adjust the damage accuracy or splash radius separately for ground and air targets. This would allow us to fine-tune their effectiveness. For example, by giving AAGs very low accuracy against ground targets. While this approach is being considered, it would require technical development and doing ongoing maintenance, and would introduce different stats for the same weapons depending on its target, which could be confusing for players. For these reasons, it is considered but not prioritized. So the change. At this stage we cannot announce any definitive changes. As always, thorough testing phases are necessary to ensure the best possible balance for these units. These adjustments could affect several units, including both towed AAGs such as the ZPU-4 and the self-propelled AAGs like the Shilka. We will be actively working with our QA team and strike team to evaluate the impact of these changes, and will continue refining them based on their feedback and gameplay data. Here are a list of divisions affected by these changes. You can read through them as you wish, but let's be honest, the majority of divisions are affected by these changes. What are your impressions of these upcoming changes? Please feel free to discuss or ask any questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. So I think there's been ongoing discussions and things, and there's been some good suggestions from the communities of ways to solve this. Unfortunately, some of them are going to be way too involved and require way too many people involved in recoding parts of the game to do certain things, so I don't imagine that's going to happen. I think we're most likely going to see a minimum range on these weapons to see if it can stem this and go from there. So, Southag Division number 9. again a NATO division, and this time it is the Luftlandedivision. So, NATO's West German 1st Luftlandedivision and its history. The West German 1st Luftlandedivision, or 1st Air Landing Division, was raised in 1956, a year after the Bundeswehr's founding. At first, only 2 airborne brigades were used, but by 1970, a 3rd brigade was added. Organised as a division with 3 brigades and an artillery regiment, the 1st Luftlanders combat units were distributed as reserves among the 3 main West German field commands: the 1st Corps in Northag, the 3rd Corps in Southag, and the 2nd Corps in Southag. This left its divisional HQ and only partially active artillery regiment as administrative formations. It was quickly realised that these dispersed brigades were rather light and best used on the defensive, due to their limited number of soldiers and firepower. This also led, turning to the end of the Cold War, to the Bundeswehr envisioning a different, more active role for the 1st Luftlandedivision. Although one of its brigades, the 27th Luftlander Brigade, would keep a separate and positioned, or be kept separate, and positioned in Northag, the Air Landing Division would regain control over its 2 more southern located brigades. These formations would operate in Bavaria, in a theatre of war particularly well suited for light infantry, defending the mountainous and wooded regions near the West German border with Czechoslovakia and Austria. The 1st Luftlandedivision Division was further bolstered by the addition of the Gebirgsjäger Brigade? Gebirgsjäger Brigade 23? Not sure how to pronounce that word. Someone will have to let me know. And 1 armoured recon company, courtesy of the 1st Gebirg Division? Not sure on that word. On top of that, the Territorial Brigade from the Heimatschutzen Brigade 56 would also join the division's ranks. The latter formation was rather powerful, closer to the regular Panzer Grenadier Brigade than a rabble of reservists and local militia. So the Luftlandedivision in WARNO. So, in WARNO's scenario, the Southag-assigned Reserve 25th Luftlander Brigade will aid the 2nd Panzer Grenadier Division, as depicted in the playable division as well as in Army General. This means it is not available to the 1st Luftlander Division. Instead, our new battle group will feature 1 airborne, 1 mountain, and 1 mechanized infantry brigade, a rather unique ratio of troops, which will be reflected within WARNO Southag. 1/3 of the troops will feature the airborne trait. These stem from single airborne brigade. 1/3 mechanized infantry units, although part of the Heimatschutzen Brigade 56, the HSB 56, these troops will not be considered reservists. This particular territorial brigade was a cut above the rest in terms of training and equipment, and instead will be represented as regular units with locked veterancy. And 1/3 will be the mountain troops, which will feature the new mountaineer trait. These represent the Gebirgsjäger Brigade. These light units will have less to no movement penalty in rugged terrain such as forests. This new trait will be retrofitted to existing units such as the British Gurkhas and Soviet Afghansky. So, what will it look like in the game? So, logistics. It is better than other comparable airborne divisions in terms of slots and their place. This is due to the 1st Luftlander Division being only partially airborne, plus it was pre-positioned with close supply lines to the battlefield and the battle group would be fighting on. Like other WARNO airborne divisions, it doesn't receive a FOB. Its supply units are airliftable Krakenmun, the Unimog S404 munitions, and the medium new TYP 1017 munitions. These are the supply vehicles, and they will also get the CH-53G munitions helicopter. Command units are the Iltis and the M577GA2. Infantry tab, as can be expected from a light airborne/mechanized infantry division, the category is excellent in terms of number of slots and their price. Let's start with the usual suspects, with some new variants. The ubiquitous Panzergrenadier comes in command, IFV and APC variants, and represents the HSB-56. As such, they are veterancy locked. These squads are deployable in the Unimog, the M113, the new Marder 1A1, the Marder 1A1A Milan, and then you will also have access to the FS Jaeger, which will be available in Command, Vanilla, and Pioneer versions, as well as the FS Jaeger Reservisten, which will deploy veterancy locked but without the reservist trait and equipped with the Carl Gustav recoilless rifle instead of the Panzerforce 3. These squads will all have the forward deploy trait and ride into battle in soft-skinned vehicles. Support weapons include the MG3 in regular and para versions, as well as the Milan 1, representing the HSB-56, hence vet-locked, the Milan 2, and the FS Milan 2 ATGM teams. Gescherung squads Unimog and Feldjäger in their dedicated TYP-181 Feldjäger Jeep, and the VW-T3 Feldjäger bus to fill out the ranks. To be followed by new infantry. The Bundeswehr's Gebirgsjäger. Still not sure I'm pronouncing that right. These come in various shapes and sizes, but all with the new Mountaineer trait. So there will be a command squad, they're a full-man command squad with a G3, Carl Gustav and Smoke, and then can deploy in the Iltis or the UH-1D. Then there will be a standard Jaeger squad, which are 11-man rifle squads with a G3, 1 Scope G3, 1 MG3, and a Panzerforce 44, and they come in the TYP-1017 or the UH-1D. And then there will be the Pioneer squad, which is 10-man combat engineer squad with a G3, MG3, and explosives, and they come in the new TYP truck. And then there will be the Luftjäger equivalent. They are bigger half-platoon squads as found in comparable WARNO divisions to better fit inside their large helicopters. In this case, a single card of a 16-man squad with a G3, 1 Scope G3, 2 MG3s and a Carl Gustav, and they can deploy in the CH-53G. The new Gebirgsjäger, I'm still not sure about that, the G word there. They are the creme de la creme. A single card of an 11-man commando squad with a G3, 1 Scope G3, 2 MG3s and explosives. This unit also fields the airborne, shock and special forces traits and can deploy in the TYP-1017 trucks. Artillery, an average category in terms of slots and their cost. Mortars available are the MRS Tampella 120mm mortar, both in regular and Fallschirmjäger variants, plus the Panzermörser from the HSB-56. Howitzers include the ubiquitous FH-155-155mm and a few of the new FS-56 or M56 105mm taken out of storage, which are light Italian-made howitzers widely used in NATO armies in the 1970s, specifically by airborne or mountain troops. This artillery comes with the airborne trait and can be fire both HE and heat rounds. Okay, so anti-tank capability. HSB-56's M109G is an older, short-barreled variant of this classic self-propelled gun with less range than its more modern counterparts. Tank tab is an average category, as you might expect. The main battle tank is the HSB-56's Leo 1A1A1, which is veterancy locked but in command and vanilla variants. There will also be access to one card of the Leo 1A1A2, which were used by the Gebirgsjäger Brigade as anti-tank units in place of the Jaguar. While the two above tanks share the same gun, the latter will use better ammunition and won't be vet-locked. Okay. In the same fashion, the HSB-56 used some M48 A2 GA2s in place of the Kajapa. These vehicles will be vet-locked but without the reservist trait. This means they will differ from the previous tank model, which we will rename the Heimat M48A2 GA2. Oh, we renamed it last week, sorry. Which will retain the reservist trait. As for missile tank destroyers, the division can count on one card each of the Jaguar 2, the Kraker Milan 2, and the Cracker Ito. The latter two available in airlift versions. Okay, Recon tab. Pretty good category. Recon-based infantry includes the FS Jaeger Aufklärer Scouts and the FS Jaeger B1 Recon Commandos. There'll be the sharpshooters, a 2-man sniper team, with 2 scoped G3s coming in the Iltis or the Cracker MG3 Recon transport. The Geb Aufklärer, a 10-man scout squad with a G3, 1 scoped G3, 1 MG3 and a Panzerfaust 44 in a variety of vehicles. And then there will be the Jag Commando, an 11-man scout squad with a G3, 1 scoped G3, 1 MG3 explosives, which will feature the shock trait. Armoured recon vehicles, detached from the other division, will be the Lux A1 and the new Aufklärer Leo 1A5. It's quite a nice tank to have in there. Aerial recon includes the Alouette 2 and the CL-289 Fast Recon UAV. AntiAir is an average category. The division had no dedicated AA battalions, only a few anti-air defence companies organic to the brigades. However, the Airborne and Mountain Jaeger had an impressive collection of single-barrel 20mm guns, so a few options, most light, but you can take a lot of them. Towed guns include the single-barreled FS FK 20-220mm with the airborne trait and the Cracker Transport Tractor, and a regular FK-22 Zwilling 20mm. Self-propelled guns include the airlifted Cracker 20mm and truck-mounted Unimog S404 FK-20, and the only true spag is a single card of the Gepard 1A1, rounded out with a number of Fliegerforce Manpad teams. Helicopter tab, well, it's pretty mediocre. So they had a large pool of utility helicopters for transport or airlifts. Attack helicopters were very absent. A single card each of the BO-105 PAH-1 and the BO-105 PAH-1A1. AirTab is pretty good. They have a large selection of new planes or loadouts. Let's start with the classics first. The F4F HE2 and the Tornado IDS MW1 in-ground pounding rolls, plus the new payload variant of the Alpha Jet A rocket with 72 SNEB rockets. As it happened, within the division's command area was located the WTD-61, the Bundeswehr's Technical Center for Aircraft Improvement, basically West Germany's Area 51. We used the opportunity to include some variants or armaments being actively tested at the time. These include some precursors to post-Cold War equipment, while others were abandoned due to a lack of funding after 1989. So the F4F with laser-guided bombs, 2 GBU-12s, the F4F AA-2 with 4 AIM-9Ls, which is a local upgrade roughly equivalent to the American M variant developed in West Germany due to difficulties toward the USA's uncooperative attitude in correcting the IRCCM deficiency of the former missile. Tornado IDS Seed with 2 HARM missiles, and the Alpha Jet AKWS. This was a planned upgrade for the whole Alpha Jet fleet, but the project was cancelled in 1988, but no such thing happened in our timeline. This is a March to War prototype with 20% ECM and 2 AIM-9Ls plus 2 AGM-65B Mavericks, turning the Alpha Jet into a tiny multi-role strike craft. This plane will come in its specific WTD-61's test livery. Lastly, the final plane in the division's arsenal isn't a prototype, but it's still rare and new in game, and that's the HFB 320 ECM electronic warfare aircraft. Unarmed, this is the West German counterpart of the American Raven, being in essence a flying scrambler to mess with the radar of enemy air defenses. We introduced this particular plane as an option in the Nemesis 2.1 Huff Corridor, which never made the cut, and felt sorry that it missed its opportunity to join WARNO's arsenal. Consider this to be fixed. The 1st Luftlandedivision is a light battle group, very versatile with its potent mix of airborne, mountain and mechanized units. It lacks heavy armor but makes up for this deficiency with great infantry, recon and air categories. And that is the Southag expansion reminder, but we won't go through that. So that's it. Next week will be WARNO Southag's final divisional preview. So I'll see you all then. I hope you all enjoy your weekend.